Welcome to the Career Refresh Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Griffin. I'm a former media and marketing executive turned career strategist and executive coach. I spent my career working my way up and through the ranks of global organizations and startups, and today I show others how to do the same. Join me each week as we discuss the strategies and actionable steps to leverage your strengths, increase your confidence, and develop your career well-being. Ready? Let's do it. Hey friends, this is the Career Refresh, and I am your host, Jill Griffin. Today, I want to tell you a little story before we jump into the show's topic. And I want to share an experience I've had recently in my adoptive hometown. My bio grandfather was from Greece, and he died before my mother ever knew him, so we don't really have any firsthand experience of the culture. And lately, I've been really curious about where my ancestors are from before they came to America, understanding, doing a lot of dig-ins on Ancestry.com and just really understanding some of that past. I recently did a trip to Ireland and spent a beautiful, beautiful time in Ireland. And, my last name, my heritage, is ultimately from there. And it was just a really beautiful experience to see a lot, funny when you see your family's names on storefronts and people, look at your credit card as you're paying for something and they say, "Oh, Griffin, are you here to visit family?" So it was a really beautiful experience. But again, I've been curious about this Greek side of my family, but there's really no one to ask. So when the Greek festival came to my town last weekend, my husband and I decided that we wanted to go and have some, amazing food and also just check it out, right? We don't speak Greek. We don't have any connection to the festival was at a Greek church, so we don't have any connection to that church. But again, we wanted to go see a little bit of the culture, get some really good food, and, just be in the experience. So we get there, we buy some amazing Greek food. I bought a bunch of pastries to bring home for dessert. And, the priest of that particular church came over to us and, it was obvious that we're not parishioners and we don't go there. And we, like I said, we don't speak the language, but he just had such a beautiful way of welcoming us and encouraging us to hang around and come back. And if we wanted to, go check out the inside of the church. And I love churches and I love sacred spaces. I love possibility, inspiration, and belief. So when I'm in a space like that, I feel like I feel the hopes and sentiment of so many people. And when the priest suggested we do that, I didn't know it was appropriate to go into a church that I'm not, part of that community. And he was like, no, of course, go in. And the church was absolutely stunning. The artwork was beautiful. He suggested, we go in and light a candle and just spend some time in there. So we did that and we made a small donation. And, just even the other parishioners in the community, everyone, again, clearly knew we weren't part of it and was so welcoming. And I was just reflecting on that beautiful experience of right in my backyard, so to speak, and having this experience with my community that I didn't know existed. And I pop into a store on the way home and the cashier asked me if I needed a bag. And she noticed that my bag was full of groceries, pastries mostly, right? And in my town, we rarely give out bags. It's just not a thing. So she asked me if I needed a bag because she could see all the pastries in my bag that clearly I got from the festival. And of course, it turns out that's her church. And the cashier next to her, it's his church too. So here we are again talking about food, community, culture. It just, again, was a really heartwarming experience. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because every time you watch or read the news lately, you would think that no one cares, no one's nice, even if we have different beliefs or different customs, that we hate each other and we don't get along and everything is so divisive. And look, I'm not suggesting that we don't have a lot of challenges ahead of us right now, but I feel like this is the Mr. Rogers moment to tell you to look for the good people, look for the helpers, and to be that light in someone else's day. Because you may be the only smile or the only glimpse of kindness that person sees that day. And look, at the risk of being like a little too woo, but as I always say, don't woo, don't poo-poo the woo-woo, friends. Whenever I'm feeling down, I would walk around, mostly it would be like to the subway going to work, and I would smile at every person that I walked past, and mentally I would say to them, "You look awesome," or "I love you. Have an amazing day. You're going to nail it today." And I would just put that thought into my mind and kind of smile at the person. And I am telling you, the amount of people that would look up from their phones as they were walking past me, smile, and almost be like a little smirk, like, "What was that?" Like they almost like felt something. And you can think this is all woo and all nonsense. I don't care. This is my PSA for today. Be the light, be kind, because it's been a week now and I'm still lit up by this experience. And most of all, I got to learn about the beautiful Greek culture a little bit, and that warms my heart. So I'm now going to jump into today's topic, which is about necessary endings. A while back, I did an episode on the seasons of your career. It was episode 95, and it dropped December 13th of 2022. So go check it out, because it's about the seasons of your life and your career. We all have springs, we all have winters, we all have summers, maybe all in the same week, right? And you can't treat each season of your life and your career the same, because things do end. So I'm going to ask you, do you acknowledge and accept that endings are natural and a part of life? There's an expression in big consulting firms, agencies, and service-based businesses that when it comes to client-based business, that you are the wife, you are not the girlfriend or the mistress. Because it's the idea that any way you look at it, there's always going to be a pirate on the ship. And I know I'm mixing analogies, but stay with me, right? It's this idea that you may be in the long-term relationship with a partner or a service provider, but there's always someone else who wants that business too. And service providers, sometimes relationships end. And it's really interesting because if you are the client, when the service provider may end the relationship, maybe they're taking on a bigger client, it becomes a conflict of interest, whatever it may be. It's so interesting because you're thinking of your service partner or your vendor as like they're your person that does this. But you are one of their many clients. And while many people have a deep understanding of service-based business and want to service, you're still one of many, but they are one of yours, right? So you may love your vendor partner. You may love the relationship you have with your accountant, your doctor, or your hairdresser. But again, you are one of many to them. And these long-term relationships sometimes come to an end because the vendor is going to terminate the relationship. And this can feel hostile. It can feel like, wait, WTF? Like, I should have fired you before. How come I didn't, right? And you may be caught in complete surprise, or you may have suspected it coming. But if you've experienced this, I want to ask you, were you satisfied with the service you were getting? Was it as good as when you first became a client? I recently had a long-term vendor partnership, sort of friendship-ish, like over 20 years, end. And this company sent me a text message saying that they were no longer offering the service that I was planning to have a check-in on in a few days. A text message. And for any Sex and the City friends out there, my thought was, did you just burger me? And for anyone who doesn't know, Carrie got broken up with by a guy, Jack Berger, on a Post-it note that said, "I'm sorry, I can't, don't hate me." But I got a text after 20 years. And it was like, whoosh, total gut punch. Then there was like the frantic WTF thoughts. Then it was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to find someone else fast. And then I just watched myself go from stunned to panic to unsettled, to sadness, and eventually acceptance, all within a few hours. And look, because I have 15 years of training as a coach and 25 plus years of mindset and development work, I was able to process this much faster than maybe someone who doesn't have that type of background. And I responded with a text that just thanked them for their years of service and wished them well. Now, I will tell you that I was not thrilled with the service recently. And in fact, I complained to peers and said that the service was really sucking, that I was no longer, the new client, and I clearly was getting the bottom of the barrel or like the scraps, the leftover services. And I actually said that I wanted to use another company, but I know that those companies referred business to each other back and forth. And I thought this new company is never going to take me on without permission, right? It would be a conflict for them to do that. So to be clear, a phone call would have been what I would have preferred, right? Maybe even an email thanking me or in the phone call thanking me for my many years of business that was a lot of money over the years, right? That would have been great. But instead, this was one-sided. There was no thank yous. There was no best wishes. It was just, we're not going to service you anymore. And I don't know what happened because there was never an exchange. There was never an awkward moment. And yes, I was unsatisfied with the service, but it may have nothing to do with me, even though it feels like it does. And frankly, the universe did for me what I couldn't do for myself. So it's also known that my main point of contact at this company was clearly going through something because it's no way that their way of doing business was to customarily end relationships in a text message. But they're avoiding closure. And perhaps they feared being uncomfortable or emotional to have the conversation, or they weren't up for the task. And I could be wrong about all of that, but I choose to believe the best in them. It doesn't excuse the unprofessional nature of the action, but it allows me to give them grace for their human messiness. The mindset work allows me to meet people where they are. And it doesn't serve me to have expectations or demands that they should have done it differently, because it wasn't supposed to happen that way, because it didn't happen that way. So if you are in this position, and there's a chance at some point you will be in this position, or maybe you have been in this position, I'm going to tell you to feel the feels. Feel it. Do not react immediately. Remain calm. And you do need to acknowledge the decision. But again, the universe's will is never urgent. So unless we're talking about saving lives here, we do not need to do something rash or quickly or respond quickly, because I'm going to tell you to pause, breathe for a minute, maybe walk away, depending on how you get the information. Just find the strength in the pause. And then respectfully seek clarity and understanding, right? Understand their perspective and the reasons that this is happening if it feels right for you. I also encourage you to express gratitude and appreciation for their service. You may need to discuss a transition plan, but maintain professionalism in all future interactions. Do not slam them on the street. Do not gossip, right? You may be asked for a referral in the future, or someone may say, hey, what was your experiences working with the company? Stick to the facts. Stick to what they did well, what they didn't do well. And yeah, sure, you can say that the relationship came to an end and it was unexpected, but stick to the facts, not your opinion or emotions. And where possible, preserve the relationship, right? In this particular company, there's many people working there. There's other people that I want to preserve the relationship with. So even though the partner didn't have the best professional mannerism in dealing with this, there's other people there that I would welcome doing business with again in some capacity. So the business relationship is ending, but you may work together in the future in some way. If that's appropriate, you may want to express interest in future collaborations. Leaving the door open for the future demonstrates maturity and goodwill. And then I want you to do an evaluation. I want you to do an evaluation on the relationship or the service. What was working for you? What wasn't working for you? And what would you do differently when you enter a partnership the next time? You don't have to cancel this company or service provider. You don't have to make them wrong. You can just reflect on the evaluation. You can have compassion for them because this is where they are at. My personal value statement is, I see you, I get you, and it's my pleasure to serve you. And if you haven't read the book Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Gugadera, you must. He was the American restaurateur of the world-renowned Michelin-starred Best Restaurant in the World restaurant, 11 Madison Park. And it's really funny because for a good chunk of my years working in advertising, we sat at 11 Madison Park at the office building upstairs, and we would go there all the time for partner and vendor lunches. So to see it continue on in its glory and get the best restaurant in the world is amazing. Anyway, read the book by Will Gugadera because this book, Unreasonable Hospitality, I will tell you, in it, there were times in which I was crying tears of joy because I love to surprise someone and service someone and give them the experience that they were not expecting, right? Can I over-deliver? And, when you're thinking about being in a service-based business, whether you're on the receiving end or the personal end, it's still about human relationships and knowing that people are messy and that everyone's trying their best, right? And what's that expression? We're all just walking each other home. So be kind to people. So in a recap for today, I want to ask you, are you hanging on to people, jobs, projects, clients, beliefs that time has passed? Is it time to move on? Have you ever wasted time trying to bring someone along who's not coming? Try to work on that vendor-partner relationship and it's just not working. Do you need to have a conversation with someone? Because if you're needing help preparing for a conversation, I would love to help you. Check out the link in the show notes to schedule a free consultation. And hey, listen, if you like this episode, please share it. And if you love this episode, please leave a review. It really helps me spread the podcast to others because, algorithms, that's how it works, friends. All right, everybody, have a great week. And as always, here's to possibility. Hey, thanks for listening to the Career Refresh podcast. If you're enjoying this and you want more information, go to my website, jillgriffincoaching.com. There you can find information on how to work with me one-on-one or my group programs, or even bring me into your workplace. I'll put the link to my website in the show notes. But hey, listen, before you go, do me a favor, rate and review this podcast because it definitely helps me get the word out to people everywhere so that they can also thrive in the workplace. All right, friends, I appreciate you. I'll see you soon.